Have you ever met someone who speaks as if they were a walking encyclopedia, certain of every word they say without a hint of doubt? If you think such characters exist only in fiction, it may be time to reconsider. Ignorance often stems from overconfidence in personal beliefs and a rejection of alternative perspectives. But why do people fall into this mindset? What prevents them from realizing they might not know everything? Let's explore this phenomenon through the lens of psychology and Stoic philosophy. Number 1. The Dunning-Kruger effect. The dangerous illusion of competence. People who argue like outdated versions of Wikipedia often display the Dunning-Kruger effect, a psychological phenomenon where individuals with limited knowledge or skills overestimate their competence. They're unaware of their limitations, usually due to a lack of metacognition, the ability to reflect on and understand their own thinking processes. In Stoicism, true wisdom is born from an awareness of one's ignorance. As Epictetus said, it's not what we don't know that gets us into trouble, but what we think we know for sure that just isn't so. It's like someone getting lost in the forest because they know the way while lacking real understanding of the terrain. Why is this mindset dangerous? Because such individuals often cling to personal truths and reject other viewpoints. When you think you already know everything, you stop learning and limit your growth. Psychologically, this is known as confirmation bias, the tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information that supports your existing beliefs. For example, if you believe coffee makes you smarter, you'll likely ignore research that highlights its downsides. To avoid this trap, Stoicism teaches us to practice self-skepticism. Always question your thoughts and stay open to new perspectives. If you ever feel like the smartest person in the room, maybe it's time to find a different room. Number 2. The danger of overconfidence and intolerance of ambiguity. The saying, better to have an evil enemy than a foolish friend, may sound harsh, but there's truth in it. A foolish person, overly confident in their opinion, can be like a broken GPS, seemingly sure of the direction, but ultimately misleading. The worst part, they don't even realize they're wrong. Stoicism offers sharp insight here. Ignorance born from blind belief is more destructive than intentional malice. A malicious person may have a clear motive like personal gain, but a foolish person can cause unintended chaos, even with good intentions. History is full of misguided decisions by leaders who were too confident to listen to reason, such as the Peloponnesian War, sparked by leaders who ignored sound strategy in favor of their inflated beliefs. In psychology, this is known as overconfidence bias, the tendency to underestimate risks and overestimate one's abilities. These individuals rarely reflect deeply because they resist outside input. Their decisions often have broad negative consequences. According to Stoicism, the solution is ongoing skepticism of our own beliefs. Seneca once said, "We learn more from failure than from success." Rather than following someone who sounds confident but lacks facts, take time to think critically and listen to multiple sides. If you meet someone who's overly sure but lacks substance, ask, are you truly certain or are you unaware that you might be wrong? Number 3. Ambiguity and tolerance and the loss of negative capability. Have you ever argued with someone who sees the world in black and white, leaving no room for gray areas? This is a result of intolerance of ambiguity, where people feel discomfort in uncertain situations and crave clear, simple answers, even when reality is far more complex. The clearest example is belief in conspiracy theories. People often prefer simple narratives like, it's all the elites doing, because our brains prefer easy explanations over the uncomfortable reality of complexity. From a Stoic perspective, this mindset is dangerous. Marcus Aurelius taught, that true wisdom comes from accepting life's uncertainties. Ironically, people often choose the comfort of false certainty over facing actual uncertainty. They're more likely to believe rumors and scientific facts, simply because rumors are easy to digest. The poet John Keats described this as negative capability, the ability to stay in uncertainty without rushing to find quick answer. This mental flexibility allows for creative and critical thinking. To escape rigid thinking, Stoicism teaches us to calmly face ambiguity. Seneca once compared life to a wild river, sometimes slow, sometimes fast, but our job isn't to control the current, it's to learn how to swim. So, if someone is too sure of a single answer, ask, are you sure or just afraid of another possibility? Number 4. Ignored competence. When confidence beats reality. Imagine a pilot so overconfident they skip safety checks. You want a parachute, right? This happens more often than we think. Incompetent people with high confidence rise to power, unaware of their own limitations. This is another form of the Dunning-Kruger effect. People with low ability think they're smarter than they are. If they gain power, the consequences can be worse than a crash landing. They're unaware of how bad their decisions are, because they don't understand their own limits. Stoicism has long warned against this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is better to have a quiet, wise leader than a loud, empty one." A true leader is humble and always learning, not someone who talks a lot but knows little. The problem is, people often trust confidence over competence. This is known as a halo effect, where confident people seem more capable than they are. Stoicism advises us to judge decisions based on logic, not emotion. Seneca reminds us, it is better to wait and think than to run and get lost. So if a leader seems too confident but lacks facts, ask, is this a real solution or just ego disguised as a plan? Number 5. Self-reflection and openness to feedback. Have you ever argued with someone who says, if you disagree with me, you're my enemy? That mindset reveals an inability to deal with ambiguity and a rejection of alternative perspectives. The world isn't just black and white. It's more like an abstract painting filled with nuance. Psychologists call this disconfirmation avoidance, the tendency to reject information that contradicts existing beliefs. Stoicism counters this. Epictetus said, "Don't hope that events happen as you wish. Instead, wish for them to happen as they do." Real wisdom comes from accepting uncertainty and recognizing that we'll never have all the answers. The ability to tolerate contradiction is a core part of critical and creative thinking. Without it, the mind stagnates. We fall into echo chambers, only hearing opinions that reinforce our own and missing out on intellectual growth. So how do we avoid this trap? Stoicism teaches us to ask, what other perspective have I not considered? Marcus Aurelius believed, the full truth only appears when you're willing to see from all sides. Number 6. Embracing uncertainty, the key to wisdom. In the end, ignorance isn't about how much you know. It's about how open you are to what you don't know. Ignorance arises when we become too certain of what we believe, without leaving room for other possibilities. Understanding ignorance through psychology and Stoicism shows that we're all vulnerable to this trap. When we hold on too tightly to our beliefs, reject uncertainty, and avoid self-reflection, we can find ourselves to an echo chamber that blocks deeper understanding. But there is a key, intellectual humility. Always ask, what am I missing? Stoicism encourages us to value uncertainty because it keeps us learning and seeking truth. We will never know everything, and in accepting that, we find real wisdom. An open mind and the willingness to reflect don't just help us grow, They save us from the illusion of knowledge. So let's stop pretending we know everything, and instead ask more often, what haven't I understood yet? Plot twist. Sometimes being foolish is the wisest thing, because only those who admit their ignorance are willing to keep learning.